Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment is so much more than just a detective story. It's a deep dive into the human mind, a philosophical battlefield where big ideas can have, well, life or death consequences. So let's step into this world, this feverish, chaotic vision of 19th century Russia. Just listen to these words. These are the thoughts churning in the mind of our main character, a young man wandering the hot, smelly streets of St. Petersburg. He's standing on the edge of a truly terrible decision, and he's wrestling with this idea, treating it like it's just some kind of intellectual game, a plaything. Well, that plaything is about to get very, very real. So, who is this man? His name is Rodion Raskolnikov. He's a former student, smart, even handsome, but he's being absolutely crushed by poverty. I mean, he lives in this tiny room. It's really more like a closet. And he's completely cut himself off from everyone, just lost in the maze of his own thoughts. But you've got to understand, this isn't just one guy's personal crisis. All of Russia at this time was in an uproar. There were these new, radical ideas pouring in from Western Europe, and it created this kind of intellectual fever. And that societal fever, it's perfectly mirrored in the mind of Raskolnikov himself. And right at the center of all this chaos was a philosophy you could call atheistic rationalism. Basically, the idea was that old-school morality, good and evil, as defined by God, was totally outdated. For the new, modern person, cold, hard reason was the only thing that should guide your actions. And this idea, well, it becomes the intellectual poison that Raskolnikov drinks down, giving him the justification for what he's planning to do. And here's where it gets really dangerous. This philosophy basically splits humanity into two groups. First, you have the ordinary people. They have to follow the rules, no questions asked. But then there are the extraordinary men. Think Napoleon. These guys, they have the right to break any law, to step over any obstacle, even step over a dead body if it's for some higher purpose. And guess which category our guy thinks he belongs to? Yep, the extraordinary. Okay, so he's got his theory all worked out. What he calls his hideous dream starts to become a plan. Now we get to the crime itself, and we see what happens when a philosophical idea smashes into a terrifying reality. And this is where Dostoevsky is just a master. He builds the tension with these tiny, agonizing details. Think about that for a second. 730 steps. He's counted them. This is not a crime of passion. Not at all. It's a calculated, rehearsed project. As he walks to the pawnbroker's building, he's in this obsessive trance, like he's not even a person anymore, but a predator stalking its prey through the city. But here's the catch. His grand theory, his extraordinary man idea, it offers him zero protection from his own body. He might think he's above it all, but his body is betraying him. With every single step up that dark, creepy staircase, his heart sinks, his hands start to shake. The so-called Superman is in reality completely terrified. And then, this one tiny, almost insignificant detail, the faint little tinkle of a cheap bell. That tiny sound seems to snap him back into focus, like a final reminder of the line he's about to cross. It's just brilliant writing, showing how a huge philosophical crime can turn on the smallest, most ordinary moments. So the axe falls, not once, but twice. And right at that moment, the entire novel changes. It stops being a crime story, and it becomes one of the greatest psychological thrillers ever written. Because Raskolnikov's real punishment isn't going to be some prison camp in Siberia. No, the real punishment is the prison he's just built inside his own head. His whole theory just shatters the second it hits reality. He doesn't feel powerful. He doesn't feel like a hero. He just feels cut off, completely and totally alone. He falls into this delirious, paranoid state where every stranger's glance, every little whisper sounds like an accusation. His great act didn't free him. It trapped him. And into this mental prison steps Inspector Porfiry Petrovich. Now, this guy is so much more than a detective. Porfiry is basically Raskolnikov's conscience walking around in a police uniform. He's this brilliant, crafty guy who knows the best way to catch his man isn't with clues, but with ideas. So, in their talks, Porfiry never just comes out and accuses him. No way. Instead, he starts this brilliant cat and mouse game, using Raskolnikov's own philosophical article against him. He just pokes and prods, using psychology as his only weapon, trying to force Raskolnikov to face what his ideas really mean. And oh, does it work. Raskolnikov becomes completely convinced that Porfiry knows everything. He's stuck in this mental chess match that he can't possibly win, because in the end, his opponent is himself. And he starts to realize, my crime wasn't the act of a great man. It was the act of a sick one. But this whole battle for Raskolnikov's soul isn't just happening inside his head. It's also represented by two very real people he meets, each one showing him a different path he can take, a different way out of the abyss he's dug for himself. First up, there's Sonia Marmeladov. She's been forced into prostitution just to feed her family. I mean, by the standards of the day, she's the ultimate sinner. And yet, she has this rock-solid faith and this unbelievable ability to show compassion to others. You see, Sonia shows a totally different kind of strength. It's not about being smarter or more powerful than everyone else. It's a strength that comes from humility and from love. She's the living proof that morality isn't just about cold logic. It can come from faith and from empathy. And she becomes this single beacon of hope for Raskolnikov in his darkness. And then there's the other guy. His dark mirror image, Arkady Svidrigailov. Now this is a rich, smart man who actually lives by Raskolnikov's code. He truly believes he's above morality and has absolutely no rules. Svidrigailov does whatever he wants to whomever he wants and feels zero guilt about any of it. He lives only for his own pleasure. But his life is a picture of total, soul-crushing emptiness. And his eventual suicide acts as a terrifying warning sign for Raskolnikov. It's basically saying, this road you're on, this is the dead end. So he's torn between these two futures. He sees Sonia's path of redemption through suffering, and he sees Svidrigailov's path of empty despair. Raskolnikov he can't stand being so alone anymore. So he goes to the one person he thinks might actually be able to understand the terrible thing he's done, Sonia. And in this agonizing confession, the real truth finally tumbles out. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't even really about his theory. He killed to prove something to himself. And in trying to prove he was extraordinary, he just destroyed his own soul. And it's Sonia who tells him the only way back. He has to confess to everyone, and he has to accept his punishment. That's the only way to even begin to heal. You know, the book ends with him in a prison in Siberia, but that's almost like an afterthought. The real story was the journey to get there. Crime and Punishment is a timeless masterpiece because it asks these huge questions about guilt, about free will, and about how we find meaning in a world that doesn't give us any easy answers. And in the end, Dostoevsky puts every single one of us, the readers, in Raskolnikov's shoes. He forces us to ask the same questions. Is a human life just a number, an obstacle that you can reason your way around for some greater good? Or is there something deeper, something more spiritual that connects all of us? The book doesn't give you the answers, but it leaves you with this profound, unforgettable question about what it truly means to be human.